10:31 on Jocks. Welcome back. Pat, Molly, Conrad. Landry will be joining us here momentarily. Unfortunately, our hookup at Social Taco had some technical issues, so we will not be there live today. So for those of you that make it out to Social Taco, and we appreciate that greatly each and every Tuesday, we will be unable to do the show from there today. But still get by Social Taco and enjoy some wonderful Mexican cuisine, and we will hopefully be back there very, very soon. School's back in session. It's time to roll into a new season in style with Courtesy GMC. Brand new pricing today. Get up to $17,000 off all new GMC Sierra 1500s. You could save up to $13,000 off the powerful Sierra 2500 HDs. I've owned a couple of Yukons, and this SUV outperforms every other SUV in its class. You can save up to $5,000 on every Yukon XL, and the all-new 2026 Acadia. Plus, every new GMC comes with a 7-year, 100,000-mile powertrain warranty. That's peace of mind that will last. Hurry into Courtesy GMC in Trussville today, right off of I-459 exit 32, or go to their website, courtesybirmingham.com. Joining us now on the Higginbotham Hotline from the AJC covering the Southeastern Conference, and also DawgNation.com covers the Bulldogs as well. Mike Griffith joins us here on Three-Man Front. What's the deal? Kirby is normally talking at this time. Has he got a lot going on this morning? Did he push you guys back 30 minutes?
I guess we're going to start the 12 o'clock a week early. Kirby getting to it, staying a week ahead of schedule. So here we go.
All right, good deal. Well, before we start talking about what's going on in Georgia camp and the rest around the conference, I don't know if you saw the story this morning, and I got a feeling I know what your response is going to be, but I have to ask you because you are a sage in the SEC. You've been around a long time. And I'm just curious, Auburn this morning announces that they're going to claim 7 other national championships, I guess, on their scoreboard. Your thoughts about schools claiming national championships from 1910?
Well, I'm not sure, how many of these things championships other schools are claiming. So I guess that'd be the first thing. If there's other schools that are, claiming the governing body's national titles that Auburn's claiming, I don't have an issue with it. To me, it's it's window dressing. Past national championships really mean when you get right down to it. You had an undefeated Auburn team that didn't even get to play for a national title one year, whether they should or should not have. I suppose was that 2004 Auburn, if I'm not mistaken.
It was 2004. Don't forget about 1993. With them being
I don't forget about that. Yeah, I covered that team. They were the only undefeated team in the nation that year, and I think the only reason Terry Bowden didn't make more of an issue of it then was that his dad won his national title.
Yeah,
I believe that was Florida State's first national title. So no, I don't take issue with that. Big shrug here.
We will try to reconnect with Mike. It sounds like it's going to be one of those days, Conrad. Mike, are you there? Well, Molly's trying to pick up.
We'll find out. Yeah, I was going to ask him if he thought they needed to pressure wash Jordan Hare before they put the New Year's up on the stadium for the new national championships they recognize.
That is interesting because 1993 Auburn went undefeated, and Florida State won the national championship that year. So Terry Bowden didn't go crazy. All right, Mike joins us back here. I was just curious, and we'll wrap up this national championship conversation. I'm just curious, how many does Georgia currently claim? I was just curious.
You know what? I'll be honest, off the top of my head, I don't even know.
Okay.
Obviously they won the 1980 and the 21 and 22. I believe there was another one in there, maybe 50 or 52, something like that. But again, today's world, there's I have a hard enough time trying to keep up with everything going on with the rule changes and NIL and the Georgia history that I have to know. And they have so many guys in the NFL right now. We do a weekly update on the Georgia players in the NFL. And, of course, they're starting to dominate a lot of NFL rosters with these draft classes Kirby's had. And that seems to be a lot more pertinent. I don't want to say history's not important. Obviously it is. But when it comes to claiming national titles, prior to the BCS, you had at least 2. And then before that, there were several polls. And just the way college football was set up, a lot of times they would award national titles before bowl games were played, which really seems backwards now.
Yeah.
So it's, college football's changed in what it was and what it's becoming and, what people are trying to make it. You're hearing about this, super expanded playoff at the expense of, conference championship games. And, That irritates me a bit. The Big Ten, is in some pretty major markets, and so when they make a proposal, it seems like there's a lot of steam behind it. And we've gotten used to Greg Sankey and the SEC kind of setting the tone and kind of letting people know how it was going to be or explaining why it was the way it was. And now it just seems like the Big Ten, with their 2 national titles and owning these big major media markets in the Northeast, in Los Angeles and Chicago, seems like they've kind of got a lot of steam behind what they want in terms of popular opinion. It's dangerous to me. They got a guy running that league that's not a football guy. He's a baseball guy and seems intent on making as much money as he can at whatever expense of the game or whatever alienation of the current fan base we have. So, hopefully the SEC will have a response to that. I haven't heard Commissioner Sankey say much about that. Like, he tries to work things out behind closed doors the right way, but it kind of sounds like the Big Ten throwing some stuff out there for people to talk about. And it's a distraction and kind of irritates me at this point.
So, Mike, if you can kind of expand on what I think you're alluding to there with the Big Ten, and of course that being the, I guess, discussions around a potential 24 or even 2018 playoff while we're still here trying to figure out how to even get to 16. Just your initial reaction. I know the FCS does 24 and it seems to work for them, but your thoughts on a 24 or 2018 playoff in Division I?
Well, I mean, FCS is a lot different, right, than FBS, and always has been. And, the playoffs have worked for them. I guess my big issue, the first red flag for me is, the elimination of conference championship games. And, I think what the SEC has is special. I think the SEC championship game has, produced a lot of memorable moments. And I know that a lot of these coaches and players, winning the league means a lot to them. And, I'd hate to see that go by the wayside and kind of turn into the, SEC basketball tournament championship. It's, kind of completely overshadowed by the NCAA tournament. And that would disappoint me, and part of what's made college football so special is the regular season. And if you go to the playoff with 24, 28 teams, obviously that really gets watered down now. And, I understand the concept of trying to keep more fan bases engaged for a longer period of time and higher television ratings and more revenue. And, it is fast becoming a money sport. But I would hate to see college football lose the essence of what's made it so special for over 100 years, and that's the regular season. Those Saturdays matter, and they would still matter to some extent, but much like the NFL regular season, I mean, there's a bit of a watered down effect to it. As there's more parity, I understand, why you might want to do that, but I thought last year was a bit of an abomination. I didn't think a fourth place team from any league should host a first round playoff game. I don't have a problem if they get in the playoffs and win, but what happened with Ohio State and the way the College Football Playoff Selection Committee worked out with a Big Ten chairman in a year where it appeared the Big Ten got the benefit of the doubt and schedule strength was overlooked despite the directives from Rich Clark, the executive director. I had a problem with that. I kind of felt like the Big Ten pulled a fast one and got away with it. We know the year before they did with what, the sanctions and the information that's come out about Michigan's national championship season. And we know that vacating, and they didn't have to vacate the title, but even if they did, at the cost of $20 million, I think a lot of schools would pay $20 million for a championship. I mean, teams right now have rosters approaching 40, 50 million. So it's disappointing. The last couple of years, to me, the last 2 national titles have kind of had a taint about them. And, hopefully we'll get on track with a better college football playoff selection committee and seedings that align better with what the teams have earned on the field and more productive playoffs. That's the idea, right? I mean, the idea here is to try to reward the best teams, not make the most money. And to me, I think that's where the Big Ten's gotten sideways with Tony Petitti and the new commissioner who's come over from Major League Baseball without much of a football background or without much respect for the game, apparently.
Mike, I wanted to ask you about Georgia camp. Alabama got bad news after their second scrimmage as their top running back, Jam Miller, he is injured. They hope to get him back for the Georgia game. How's the health of the Georgia program coming through fall camp, and what can you tell us after a couple of scrimmages there in Athens?
Yeah, that happened to Georgia last year. They were down to one scholarship running back for a large part of the year, and they were a different team when ETN was healthy. Obviously, they beat Texas twice with a healthy ETN, but they didn't have him healthy for much of the year. And It's part of football. It's unfortunate for Alabama, especially with Justice Haynes transferring to Michigan. That looks awful costly. I guess it's just surprising when you think about the players that have transferred out of Alabama, and how important Caleb Downs was last year at Ohio State to their national title, and the center that won the Remington Award that transferred out of Alabama. You think about Boyd, their best receiver was gone. You wonder what those three players could have done for Alabama. I think they would have been in the playoff. I certainly think they would have won at least one more game, if not two, with those players. You're not used to hearing Alabama lose players, key players. And now that Justice Haynes departure really looms large. From what I understand, I don't think they have any healthy returning backs with more than 160, 165 yards coming back.
Correct.
Yep.
So, so now Kalen DeBoer's got to do what Georgia did last year, and he's got to get creative with how they run the ball. Extended handoffs, as they call them, right? The short pass, which serves the same purpose, a high percentage short pass that, first down that can get you those first few yards or keep you on schedule. So they've got to work around that. Again, that's what Georgia had to do when they won the SEC championship last year. He's a really talented coach, and Alabama's got talent, but that is a very, very costly injury. I guess where my mind goes is if that's your only healthy returning starting back, why what drill did this occur in? I mean, obviously you need to play some football, but I don't know the nature of the injury. I don't know how it occurred. I heard upper body, collarbone. Usually that's a contact injury.
Yeah, it was during the scrimmage. It was during the scrimmage on Saturday.
Yeah, I don't know how much you run a guy. It might have been the only carry they had planned for him. Might just be bad luck, but it's unfortunate. Alabama's one of the teams that I've got circled as a championship contender this year, and it's a big blow. And not just when he comes back, but how he comes back. Etienne came back and his ribs still weren't quite right. He had a shoulder after the Kentucky game early in the year. He certainly wasn't 100% for Alabama. So, but it's part of the game, right? And the fact that they don't have depth is, I don't want to call it an oversight, but look, you play in the SEC, and you need to have 3 or 4 pretty strong big bodies back there. And again, Saban's departure, you're still kind of feeling the pain of that with players leaving. Really hurt the program when he left, the way he left, and when he left. I don't know how you plan for the departure of a legend like that. I don't know that there was a better way. It's just one of those things. When you lose an all-time great, it's going to be hard to keep your personnel. And you look at some of the deep-pocketed programs that picked Alabama. Whether it was Boyd going to Texas or Ohio State grabbing a few guys. Michigan now getting Justice Haynes. You hate to think that that players could be bought from Alabama. You like to think that's their first option, and that Alabama has whatever monies they need to keep them. But Georgia lost their most experienced edge rusher to Missouri. Damon Wilson went there, and Georgia lost a guy to Syracuse last year. That's looking pretty good as a rookie in the NFL. So Georgia's lost their guys. Jamon Dumas-Johnson went to Kentucky. It's happening. Some of the schools are kind of getting bought out a little bit. Just the nature of the beast, I guess. But Georgia's running back room is deep. We don't really know, what sort of star power. Nate Frazier was a freshman last year that didn't go through spring. We think he'll be better. But, are we talking about a DeAndre Swift presence or a Nick Chubb presence back there? I don't think so. We feel good about Georgia receivers, much improved from last year. How could they not be? They led the nation in drops. Zachariah Branch looks awful good. Noah Thomas has looked good, the transfer from Texas A&M. But again, I don't see Ladd McConkey or Brock Bowers coming out that tunnel. So, Georgia's not what they were in 21 or 22, but I don't know that you really can be, other than Ohio State and Texas. I don't really know how many other programs can really spend that kind of money to have that sort of star power.
That is Mike Griffith joining us from the AJC, moments away from hearing his weekly discussion with Kirby Smart. Before we let you go, I know the Gulf Coast right now, there's still some opportunities for folks. They want to take advantage of your wonderful property that I was able to take advantage of over the summer with my family. Just a wonderful place in Gulf Shores.
Yeah, and at 30% off, Pat, even less than you paid, amazingly.
It's amazing how much I paid and everybody else gets a better deal than me. It is so crazy how this works out.
Well, it was, July.
I was the guinea pig. I was the canary in the coal mine. Just admit it. That's what I was, right?
No. It really wasn't like that. The rates are seasonal. And, while it is still a great time, usually, people tell me the weather holds up there really, through Thanksgiving pretty nice. And some people like it when it's a little cooler and a little bit quieter. But September right now, I think this last week of August, I want to say the 21st through the 29th, I think we got a 30% off deal. If people are interested in that window right there, it's still pretty warm and balmy down there. And we got a couple stays in September booked, but there's some open weekends in September and October still. And they tell me that's a pretty awesome time to be down there. I'm always in football season, and I'm actually thinking of marrying my Auburn trip, Georgia's Auburn trip to that. If the condo
nice.
doesn't get, but if customers come first, and
That's
I've got
right.
clients in there, then we'll stay there, and I'll find somewhere else, because the objective is to get people to give it a shot and see if they like it. Get it at a discounted rate. If it's something they want to plan ahead for next year, they can reserve their weekend. But at Gulf Shores Getaway AL is the Instagram site that has that offer listed on there, and you can send a message and take a look at some weekends and see what kind of deal we can set you up with.
That is some great information. Mike, always appreciate your time on Tuesdays. We look forward to catching up with you next week, as it will be game week for everybody. Have a great week, and we'll talk to you soon.
All right. Look forward to it, guys.
Thanks. Appreciate it. That is Mike Griffith joining us on the Higginbotham Hotline. You deserve solutions that are built for you. Higginbotham is your one-source solution for insurance, financial, and HR services. More three-man front. We've got text messages. We'll open up the phone lines, 1-800-239-WJOX.